Hey YouTube, Big Swole 58 here, and welcome back to my channel. I did a previous video talking about the methods and products that I use to maintain and polish my guns up to the condition that they're in. And on that video I talked about the technique and the products. And I got some pretty good feedback about that. But, you know, there's always a skeptic that either don't believe you or don't believe the process. And I don't take any of that stuff personally, so I don't want somebody that don't know me to trust me, but I do want them, if they could, to trust the process. Because really, I have no reason or no motivation to mislead anybody in any way. I don't have a gun to demonstrate this on camera, but I thought about this and I kind of decided that I'm going to try something just to show that this technique does work. And I'm going to do it live on camera, you know, so everybody see that exactly what I'm doing. There's no smoke and mirror, nothing's going to be cut and pasted. It's just going to be shot live. And I'm going to show you this is done very quickly in a fraction of the time that you could do it just by using metal polish alone. Now, on that video, I explained that I do, once the gun was cleaned and examined, based on this condition, I would go through a series of wet sandings. And I would use, usually start about 1200 to 1500 grit, and then I would graduate up from 1200 to 15 to 2000, 2500 grit. And depending on what finish I was looking for, I may go to 3000 grit. Then I would finish that by polishing with a metal polish and then applying a coat of wax to help preserve that finish. Now, I don't have a gun to do that on, but what I am going to do this on is I'm going to do it on this dull, scratched up, never dull lid. Now, as you can see, this, except for the lights, this has hardly any reflectivity at all on this lid. It's pretty scratched up, and it has a very low shine and very low polish. So I'm gonna do this on video just to demonstrate exactly what I do and what kind of results you can expect. Now, that lid is aluminum, so it's much softer than stainless steel, and it's not going to polish up by no means as smoothly or as shiny or give you the level of reflectivity that a harder metal would, like stainless steel, would polish up to. But if that aluminum lid can be changed quickly, imagine how even stainless would be transformed even in a shorter period of time than that. Now, to save time, I've already cut and pre-wetted my sandpapers. And I've written the grits and the grades on them so that just try to keep everything on the up and up. I just want to set that aside. Now, as I stated, I use 1200 grit, 15, and 2000. And I will finish up with either 2500 or 3000 grit. Now, I don't have any 2500 grit, so I'm going to graduate up to 3000 grit. Now, that may or may not remove all of the scratches. It may take a little longer, but I'm just going to show you how this can happen in just a few minutes. So, I'll probably use the Johnson's Paste wax because that's the wax that I state that I prefer, which Renaissance is still a great wax. I'm just set everything aside, just out of maybe camera shot. And I'm not going to use either of those metal polishes. I'm going to use the, Mother's, the sandpaper, and we're going to polish this lid. All right? So I hope this is in camera, so let's get started. Now, the first paper I'm going to use is this 1200 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to double it over. Now, one of the things I stated is you want to make sure your sandpaper is good and wetted. You want to make sure it's wet all the way through. Dry or improperly wet sandpaper will only redeposit the scratches. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure it's good and wet. And I'm just going to start wet sanding this lid. And I'm going to do it all on camera so that for everybody to see. You want to make sure that the surface stays nice and moist. And what that does, it keeps your paper from loading up and redepositing scratches. And I hope you're kind of watching the time, because this is only going to take a minute or two before I go to the next paper. And if any of you think you can achieve this just by using metal polish by hand, I would love to see it happen. Now, I'm not an expert, I'm just a novice. But I've been working with my hands since I was 19 years old, and I've learned a lot of things in those years. And I'm a senior citizen now, so. Now I'm going in a swirling motion just because this top is round. If I was on a gun, I would go more with the grain. But in the end, the results are going to be almost the same. And like I said, you don't want to be too overly aggressive with it. You just want to apply just enough pressure to remove all the heavy scratching. 12,000 grit's not going to give you a very smooth finish. What it's going to do is going to get rid of all those really heavy scratches. All right, so I think I'm done with that. Just going to wipe it off. Take a look at it. What you'll get is a completely hazed over, very dull type of finish. Hardly no reflectivity, but definitely smooth. All right, now I'm going to go to the 1500 grit. And this is done just to remove the scratches left behind by the 1200 grit paper. The 1200 grit removed the majority of the significant scratches. Okay, again, all on camera. 1500 grit. It's nicely wetted. Make sure you keep it good and wet. And off camera, I'm just dipping it in my water bowl. Doesn't take long. Doesn't take much paper. And again, I'm going to state again, this is an aluminum top. It's not stainless steel. It's much harder to polish aluminum than it is stainless because it's a softer metal. It removes easier, but you don't get the same type of glossy finish that you will with a harder metal like stainless. Okay, what was that, about 2 minutes? All right, I'm done with the 2500, with the 1500 grit. Just wipe the top off and dry it. Now you can start to see that this finish is already starting to get a gloss to it. And it is extremely, extremely smooth. All right, we're going to go to the 2000 grit. It's 2000 grit. Nicely wetted. Folds over really easy. Now we're going to polish with the 2000 grit. Now if this is a gun, you follow the same techniques. And as you see, it's less and less abrasive materials coming off. When I first started, it almost had like a black slurry on it. And now you see less and less of that. But the grit in the paper, what it does in the water, it creates that extremely fine slurry that does the polishing. It's not just the paper, but it's the slurry that's generated and caught in that liquid layer between the paper and the metal that does the polishing. And all you have to do is just apply just the right amount of pressure, not too much. And that's it, I'm done with that. And just wipe that off. What was that? About a minute and a half? Okay. And with every step, you can see the level of reflectivity start to go up. Okay. Now, I don't have 2500 grit. I only have 3000, but that's okay. It may take a little bit longer, and I may wear this paper out, but we're going to use the same method. Pre-wet it, 3000 grit. Now, if I had 2500 grit, I would be doing the same thing, except it would be a little bit more aggressive on this than the 3000 grit. And then eventually the 3000 grit would be sort of like a very, very fine micro finish on it that would really increase the level of reflectivity. But this is not exactly the technique that I would use if I had the 2500 grit, because that's what I would be using right now rather than the 3000. And in many cases, I don't even go up to 3000. It just depends on what kind of finish I want on the gun, or how bad it started out originally and what I had to start out with. Okay, I'm done with that. It's about a minute. Just want to set it off to the side so I can dry the lid. Dry my work surface. Wipe off the lid. Okay. Now, no polish has been applied to this can, just sandpaper. But look at where we are now versus where we started. I hope you can see that. I could almost, in the right light, I could almost read the text in the reflection and on that can. Okay, now, step 2 is the polishing. Now this is an old can of Mother's, so I'm gonna have to stir it up. I'm gonna do everything on camera so everybody see that I'm on the up and up here. I just wanted to demonstrate how easy this is. And if you had a revolver or a handgun or a rifle or whatever it is that you want to do, it's just as easy. Now I'm gonna use some of these, I know that everybody say get old t-shirt, cut it up. Well, I'm not gonna cut up a t-shirt. I'm gonna use an old cotton cosmetic pad, and I'm going to apply this polish, okay, on camera. Now, if I started on this lid from without ever using that sandpaper to get to this level of reflectivity that I have now, I would be doing this for at least an hour. And that's not hearsay. That's, I know, because I've done this before, you know, trying to start with strictly metal polish. And it takes a long time. Now, when the pad turns black, you just toss it, get you another one. Apply a little bit of polish. Doesn't take a lot, because remember, this surface has been sanded with 3000 grit. It's extremely smooth at this point. It's almost mirror smooth. I don't know what they sand a mirror to, but I don't believe it's much finer than this. You just polish, and you'll know, because you see it's not turning. You're not seeing a lot of that black film on the surface. Now this, as I stated, this is an aluminum lid. It's a cheap aluminum can lid. It's nowhere near the same quality of stainless that you're going to find on a gun. So you can't expect to get the same level of finish out of this can as you will out of your gun. But the finish that you'll get will be way better than what you started out with. And if you applied this to a gun, that finish is going to be much better than how you started out. I'm going to polish this maybe for about another minute or so, probably a grand total of 3 minutes. And I'm going to wipe it off, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Like I said, this is not hard. It's not difficult. It's actually fun if you're working on a gun, because the results you get is going to be your motivation. And you can turn sort of a gun that may have started out not all that good into something that's really nice. Now, the more this polish turns black as you're using it, and that's not just a product of metal removal, but it's also sort of a chemical process as well as an abrasive process that actually creates your finish on your surface. All right, we're going to stop right there. It's about 2 minutes, 3 minutes worth of polishing. I'm going to wipe it off with a dry cloth. Okay. I'm going to put the lid back on my mother's. And I want to show you how that turned out. That's how this turns out. And that was probably all total about a total of 10 minutes, maybe less. And this is how that turns out. Now, I'm going to apply a quick coat of wax. And what wax also does is it enhances the shine or the reflectivity of the metal surface that you just finished polishing. It's like when you wash and polish your car. Polish just removes the scratches. It doesn't really give you a great shine. It smooths the surface to accept the shine. Well, this is the same technique. So I'm just going to wipe a thin coat of this tried and true Johnson Space Wax on it. Going to let it set for a few minutes right there on camera. And then I'm going to buff it off. Just going to move all my waste out of view. I'm going to bring in the rest of my products. Now, it does take this wax a little bit of time to haze over because it is a petroleum-based wax. Waxes are all the same. It doesn't matter what brand you're buying. They're either going to be one of 3 or 4 types. It's either going to be plant-based, which is usually carnauba, beeswax, a petroleum-based wax, or synthetic. And they're all going to be in maybe a different carrier, whether it be silicone carrier, an oil carrier, or a water carrier. Some waxes are going to have abrasives in them, which they're starting to call now nano wax. It's called nano wax because they usually put a extremely fine, probably 5,000 or 7,000 grit abrasive in it that actually does waxing and polishing at the same time. Everybody has their opinions about car waxes, like everybody have their opinion about cars and anything else, gun waxes or whatever it may be. But my experience is wax is wax. There is a carnauba wax shines better than silicone or synthetics. I think anybody that have used them knows that. But just because you buy a wax made by Flitz doesn't mean that that wax is made specifically for handguns. It's a carnauba based wax. And a little smaller little small tube of wax from Flitz may cost you, I don't know, 15 or 20 bucks. And you're really not getting anything any better or any different than the wax that you could get at your automotive store. That's a carnauba based wax, a can of Mothers or something. All right. That the Flitz wax may have a small amount of nano fine abrasives in it to help to remove and polish at the same time. But in the end, it's no different than McGuire's nano wax, right? So you can save yourself a lot of money sometimes when you just sort of think outside of the box and buy products based on what you're buying, not based on what you think you're buying. Because you got to remember, the whole motivation for these companies is to make money, and they make money by separating you from yours. So if you can buy something that's going to be just as effective and is basically the same product, just packaged differently, you're better off spending a third as much on something and get twice as much of it than just buying that name brand, tried and true, this is what we use in the gun community product. And that's true for cars or anything else. Home, work, it doesn't matter. You know, just make sure you're getting what you think you're buying. All right, now I'm gonna leave that alone. Okay, so I think it's done hazed over now. I'm gonna take another polishing cloth, a clean one, and I'm gonna buff this off. And I'm gonna show you how to take a plain old aluminum or aluminized tin can or aluminum can that was brushed when it was made and had years and years of surface scratches on it, and apply an almost semi-mirror finish to it in just a few minutes. And you can do the same thing with your handguns. Doesn't take any time. I was probably less than maybe 10 minutes total. So listen, I don't want to drag this out any longer, but just for anybody that may have believed that that process wasn't true or didn't believe me, hey, you don't have to trust me. Trust the process. That's all I have. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative. If so, please click the like, share, and subscribe button. And please leave me any comments that you have. I like reading them. And I don't mind criticism, just as long as it's constructive. That's how I learn, grow, and improve. That's all I have for now. I appreciate you. Until the next time, it's Big Swole 58 signing off.